are following breaking news this morning of a mass shooting in Dayton. Police say 9 people are dead and more than a dozen others are injured. That press conference just wrapping up, and the big thing we learned is that the FBI is going to be jumping in on this investigation, specifically looking into the motive. How would you describe quarantine, and what was the hardest part? Getting motivated and staying motivated is already hard enough, but don't fret, I'm here for you. I've looked and scoured across the internet to find some great products. We are following breaking news on Iran's missile attack targeting U.S. troops. I'm talking about none other than nude yoga. And while you're probably thinking this is only some kind of experience you can get at a nudist retreat, oh no.
I was comfortable with death and dying.
How did you do that? Why did you even sign up and say, yes, this is the job I'm going to do? Senator Kirsten Gillibrand saying there was not enough conversation about moving women forward. Mayor Bill de Blasio saying moderates will not win this election. And Andrew Yang tweeting about jobs. She actually called, quote, a little sad that so many mayors have so much experience to offer and to help the city of Dayton as they recover. I was allowed behind the doors of an FBI office in Northeast Ohio to see how they try to catch predators looking to take advantage of our kids online. That was the big question as I'm watching these chats unfold, and thank goodness this was a fake 13-year-old girl. But what if it was a real 13-year-old girl? What are the psychological consequences of a child being spoken to like that? Today, the president's legal team finally gets their chance to speak for the first time in the trial. They're promising a compelling case. It has been a long 5 weeks for John McGorry, but now he is healthy and he is free. Today, he's bringing us an exclusive look inside the military base where he spent 2 weeks quarantined. Columbus native John McGorry says he was quarantined for more than a month, first in Wuhan, China, as the city shut down to contain the coronavirus, then in the U.S., alongside more than 150 other Americans evacuated from Wuhan.
You know, I guess you never really notice how much freedom means to you until you have it taken away from you, and this certainly has been a situation where I felt like my freedom was taken away.
Confined for 14 days in this secluded area of the Miramar Marine Base in San Diego.
See the best and the worst of it, a palm tree and a fence.
Waiting to see if anyone came down with symptoms of the virus that is terrifying the world.
There was a fence around it, there was guards. I went out and talked to the guards one day. I asked them, how far do you think I could get if I made a break for it? They said not too far.
John walks us through the area where he was staying, including down the hall of rooms where he says a cleaning crew disinfected everything, including the walls, every day.
Each bin allows us to put laundry.
Every day there was a crew of, 10 to 15 people. They were all wearing white hazmat looking suits, and they would come along and they would, they would ask if you wanted your room clean, but they didn't really want to come in, I don't believe. They looked pretty nervous when they asked.
Here's a little bit of breakfast.
Plenty of snacks, from cakes to ramen noodles, magazines, and travel-sized toiletries. And check out these handouts, translating things like I feel sick or shampoo, plus coping with stress and how to stop spreading germs. The worst part of quarantine?
I think the isolation, and obviously in a quarantine, that's what you're supposed to be isolated in, and it certainly it wears on you after a while.
The group even isolating and staying away from any person who dared to cough or sneeze. 14 long days later, and still healthy, John was released. His sister and brother-in-law picked him up, and the first thing he asked to do, eat tacos. But John says his release is bittersweet, concerned and unsure just how long the quarantine will last for those he left behind in Wuhan.
I'm free, but I'm thinking about some of my friends that aren't free. John is still in California with family for a few more days, and then he will fly here to Ohio on Friday to spend time with his sons and grandchildren. For Spectrum News, I'm Lindsay Oliver. Now, 6 years ago, I got a devastating phone call that my idol, my best friend, my mother had cancer. Now, she is the strongest woman I know, and she is proving that again today by sharing her journey in a raw, emotional way. Our hope is at the end that you do something kind for anyone touched by cancer in your life.
This is surreal. That's the hard thing. Cancer just brings you to your knees. Yeah.
Breast cancer is not pretty pink ribbons. It's an ugly disease.
Well, hopefully it's just a temporary thing.
For the first time, my mom is letting me see the video she taped of getting her hair buzzed after chemo started making it fall out. It's raw, it's real, and it breaks my heart. My mother, Marilyn Oliver, is Superwoman, always has been. She worked at a TV station in Cleveland for 36 years, and she inspired my own career. 6 years ago, she got a call that would change our lives.
I'm on Menor Avenue. I'm turning left under Heisley, and that is a very busy intersection. And I get a phone call from the doctor, the nurse, and she says, "We have your results from the biopsy, and they're positive, and we'll be in touch with you. Goodbye." And I'm like, "What?"
For days, she didn't tell anyone. Finally, she told my dad.
Dad started to tear up a little bit, because when you tell anybody, right away they think you might die. And so it gets really emotional.
Especially since breast cancer took the life of her sister, Julianne.
She did feel a lump and never went in to have it checked. And by the time she did, it had metastasized throughout her body. And the doctor said, "What do you want us to do about it? It's all throughout your body."
My mom says her doctor did breast exams every 6 months, but never felt a thing.
It was right under my nipple. It couldn't be felt. And it was the mammogram that caught it.
The treatment plan? 2 surgeries, chemo, and 35 radiation sessions.
I said, "I don't want chemo." He said, "Why?" I go, "Because it's a poison, and I don't want this poison in my body."
So she got a test done that analyzed her specific tumor.
He told me it was stage 2, grade 3. Grade 3 is very aggressive. And then they have this paper and this chart on your life expectancy. So when you're looking at this about your life, it's very scary.
Because it said if you don't get chemo, you're going to die.
Yes.
What would you say was the toughest part of your journey?
Losing all my hair. The first signs of it coming out, you should get it buzzed, because all those hairs gets on your pillow and your sheets, and you gotta come, your husband's gotta vacuum it up. This place where I was going to get measured for a wig, they had little cubicles, and she says, "I'll shave your head, Marilyn." So I'm sitting in her room, and I take my fingers and I go through my hair. Out comes a wad of hair. I start screaming very bad sailor words down the hallway. Nobody cared. They heard them all before.
Hair is so much of a woman's identity, but she knew it was time to let it go.
Okay, today's the day. Getting my hair buzzed. It's 4 o'clock. Here's how I look today with my scarf on. Been a rough week. You know, for the last couple of weeks, I'm just tearing, just from sadness.
Yeah.
But I allow myself to just be sad.
I think it's a natural emotion that you have to feel.
Yeah, I mean, you have to grieve the loss of your hair.
Yeah.
It's not stupid, it's real, it is what it is.
Right. Well, it is. It's your identity.
It's just ugly all the way through.
No, it's not ugly. I'm just watching my mom be robbed of something.
As this amazingly kind hairdresser helps my mom through this demoralizing effect of cancer, she finds moments to smile.
Not too shabby on you.
My brother would later surprise her with a matching haircut.
So emotional that he would do this.
And cancer sucks. Trying to prevent it from coming back sucks.
My very last treatment, I was in the waiting room, and they had a book there, and so I was writing in the book, "My last day, hooray, my knight in shining armor took me to all these sessions." And this old woman looked over And she said, "You're never going to get rid of cancer." I looked at her, I go, "What?" She says, "Cancer doesn't go away. This may be your last day, but it's coming back." And I said, "Be gone, Satan. Be gone." And I got up and walked out of that room because I've been through 35 sessions and I'm feeling good. I'm going to go out in that lobby and I'm going to ring that bell of freedom. And you go, no, I'm not listening to her. You know, I'm not listening to her.
She says another woman she played tennis with offered to help pick out her casket. Another made a cruel comment about her hair when she finally had the confidence to take off her wig.
I mean, be kind. Say kind things.
By some miracle, my dad got early retirement the week of her first surgery, so he was by her side for everything.
My surgeries, my chemos, my radiations. He was my valet. He'd drop me off. He'd pick me up. He'd hold my hand. And so he was my rock.
And what breaks my heart is you said you saw so many women who didn't have that.
Yes.
My biggest fear, will it come back? Because when it comes back, every time I hear it comes back for vengeance.
Well, you know what? I don't even think about it. I went through all the treatments and did all of this stuff. And one thing I learned during that, I'm in God's hands.
My mom is simply amazing.
She is so brave, so strong. You must be so proud.
I am, and I'm really proud to say she recently had another checkup, and she is officially 6 years of cancer-free. Wow. So she wants to offer some advice to anyone who's been affected by any kind of cancer. First things first, take a deep breath. Next is to get a good support system, and of course there are resources all over the state. But in Cleveland, my mother really found a lot of support at the Gathering Place. And research your doctors. She says you really don't have to go with just who's given to you. For instance, my mom switched to her oncologist, and she says she really credits him for never getting sick during chemo.
And the person that offered to buzz her hair for her, the lady at the wig shop, I just loved that.
She's such an unsung hero in this story.
She's seen it before, and anything to help, because it's so much to go through for her and for your family as well.
It really has, but we're so proud of her, and she's doing amazing.